Welcome back, Stoner Squad, and of course a big welcome to those all new to the channel. My name is DanIsStoned, and thank you for joining me today to start a tutorial campaign for you guys. So a while ago I did a tutorial campaign where I kind of went through the beginning of the game, went through everything that you can see when you launch it, and went through all the decisions I made, just to kind of give you guys a bit of a helping hand if you are totally new to the game. But it was with the Archimedes update, I think. It was quite a while back, so a lot of things have changed since then. We have had 2.0 Marius that has been released, and it's brought a lot of change to the game. So I thought it was around about time to start another one. So, as in the previous video, I decided to play on Crete again. I do like Crete as a tutorial area. It kind of reminds me of Tutorial Island in EU4, or even kind of CK3. It's just like kind of a great place to start playing. Even in CK2, it's always been kind of the go-to area for beginners. And this is kind of a similar situation. So yeah, this is why I've chosen this place. So I've gone for Knossos here to show you guys. So this nation here, Knossos, just because it is a monarchy. Now, we'll get into the government type in a minute, but for those who are totally new to the game, I do really recommend playing a nation that is a monarchy. Monarchies are so much easier to control than any other of the kind of government types, because the monarchy, you are in sole control of everything, and you do not have to go by anyone else. That is definitely not the case for republics. Republics, they have to go through the Senate to do your actions, be it diplomatic, military, and all sorts of stuff. So it's just a little bit extra layer of complications. So I really do recommend going for a monarchy. I also recommend not going for tribal nations, because tribal nations do kind of lag behind on a lot of fronts, notably technology, gold-wise and everything, and it just makes it a little bit more complicated, especially if you come up against some of the civilized nations of the game. So my overall recommendation to start off with, if you launch a game for the very first time, is to play within the Hellenic world, first of all. The Hellenic world is fairly easy to kind of master. There's a lot of Hellenic pops all over the place, and a lot of small fragmented nations, which would allow you to kind of expand into different areas. So I would really recommend using someone like a monarchy in the Hellenic sphere. Also, in terms of culture, it doesn't really matter which culture you kind of go for. It is a little bit easier if you play within the Hellenistic culture group, because the Hellenistic culture group, it just has a lot of different subcultures to it, and it just makes it a little bit easier to integrate when you do actually conquer the Hellenistic culture pops. So yeah, go for a Hellenic nation, and preferably a kind of Hellenistic culture group nation as well. Take a monarchy, don't go republic, don't go tribal, and don't go migratory tribe at all if this is your very first game. But anyway, enough of me kind of blabbering on how and why I kind of chose to start off as a Hellenistic monarchy. Let's kind of go through what will happen when you launch the game. So of course you kind of have the screen before this where you kind of choose your nation. You can of course sort by culture and religion when you do look at it, so you can easily find a Hellenistic nation that you want to play. But when you kind of launch, this is going to be the first screen you're going to get. So I kind of can't start by cutting this up into kind of multiple sections. So I think the first thing we'll talk about is the resource bar at the top. Once I've gone through the resource bar, we will talk about the tab bar on the side here and what everything does. And then I'll kind of go through the different map modes maybe, and kind of show you guys what the outliner is. And then we'll kind of launch ourselves into the game, and I'll kind of explain to you what everything does and how I do something and why I do it. I'll try to be as clear as possible, and I'll try to make it as less complicated as possible. But if there's something that you don't get, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below, and of course I will try to answer you guys as quickly as possible. If you want some more really in-depth guide to things, then I have done a series called Imperator Academy, and I do go through a lot of the different topics of the game in detail. Hopefully it's clear for you guys, and hopefully you can actually kind of understand things a little bit better. So I will put the link in the description below. There are two versions. There's Imperator Academy, Volume 1, which was done pre-Marius. A lot of it is old, some of it is quite outdated, but I do recommend kind of looking at it. I mean, some of the info is relevant, some of it is not, but you'll soon find out what is relevant and not to the current patch. And then there's the Imperator kind of Academy Volume 2, which is kind of new and updated one that's still being done and made. I think I've done a guide on economy, I've done kind of how the economy works, different kind of aspects to it, how you make gold. I've done a kind of tips video on how to increase your economy. I've also done a guide to military battles, so kind of how the battles are fought on the campaign map, and I've just done a overall general video on all the different changes that is brought with the Marius update. Okay, now that intro is out of the way, let's get rolling. So the first thing you'll see we're going to talk about here is the resource bar at the top, and this is where, it's like this big bar here, and this is where all your kind of important resources are stored. Now the first thing we have here is your treasury, so this is basically self-explanatory. It's the amount of gold that you have and that you store in your treasury. This gold is used to do loads of things. It's used to build buildings. It's used to pay your armies, because you pay your armies wages. It's used to maintain your forts, maintain your fleets. It's used to bribe people. It's used to do a load of different things. So gold is very important indeed. Your gold, you kind of make it from your taxes. Taxes are made through your slaves. Slaves are the essential kind of breadwinners of the ancient economy in terms of manual labor, and they kind of make all your tax income. Commerce income is basically through trade. We'll get into trade a little bit later on. You can trade goods around the map, and of course it gives you extra gold. Your balance is shown here underneath the little green thing, and this is the balance. So it basically will show you how much the previous month you made, not the coming month now, but the previous month. So it's important to remember that. Up here shown is the previous monthly balance. If you want to see the actual monthly balance, then just go to the economy tab and it will show you the current balance here, which you'll see is totally different to the one we have up there. So keep that in mind. This is the previous month's balance. So of course, if you are in positive numbers with the balance, that means you are earning more than you spend. And if it's the opposite way around, then of course you are not earning as much as you spend, and then you are losing money per month. If you go into debt, bad things happen. You lose monthly stability. I think if you're in debt, your stability goes down by 0.2, but we'll get into what stability is very shortly. It's just along here on the bar. I'll kind of explain to you guys what that is soon. And you have some chance of having some pretty nasty events which will affect character loyalty, research points, and a lot of other stuff. So you do want to avoid going into debt if possible. Your expenditure is generally from your wages, fort maintenance, fleet maintenance, and army maintenance. It's pretty much makes up your expenditure. A lot of it can be army maintenance once you get like permanent armies kind of ready, and it does cost quite a bit. And forts as well. Forts can stack up pretty quickly, and it can make you lose a lot of money. You'll see here we don't have any forts or anything, so we're basically only paying the wages for our fleet, because that's all we have. We have a fleet, and then the wages of our characters, because of course every single character that you have in a position of power, so that's your governors, your generals, and all sorts of stuff like that, they have to be paid a wage for the job that they do, and of course that affects your expenditure. Next thing we have is the manpower. Now, manpower is basically the amount of able-bodied men you have to fight for you. And you use this manpower to replenish soldiers that you've lost in battle. So we'll get to the kind of soldiers section in a minute, but in the game you have, like, your soldiers are organised into cohorts, which is bands of 500 men, and of course as you lose, like, groups of these 500 men in battle, then of course to replenish the numbers back up to full strength, they are used out of the manpower pool. Manpower pool is also used to create, like, your legions. So if you basically want to create a legion, you need a certain few conditions in order to do so, but when you can create a legion, it does cost you 500 manpower per cohort you want to make, because of course 500 like manpower is one cohort is 500 men. So that's how much that costs. Legions are kind of malleable. You can make them into what you want. Levies are a little bit different, but again, we'll get into all that a little while later. Here we have PI, next thing, and this is probably one of the most important resources in the game. It is really hard to come by. It doesn't go up very fast, and it is used for a hell of a lot of things, like an insane amount of things. Now, you generate a certain amount of PI per month. Now, your PI, or short for political influence, is generated, okay, by every single one of your people, or of your kind of characters in government's loyalty. So the higher their loyalty, the more PI you will generate. Now, I'll just quickly show you guys quickly. If you go to the government tab here, which is the kind of laurels here, and then go into the officers, and basically what the game is doing here, so I'll hover the mouse cursor over the political influence, you will see that the Epiproxenos, Trophius, Epistrategos, all of these kind of positions here are generating us a certain amount of political influence based on their loyalty. If you want to see that, just hover your mouse cursor. Normally, I think you can hover your mouse cursor over somewhere. I'm pretty sure you can. You could do before. Maybe I'm like wrong now. So what do I do? Here we go. So hover your mouse cursor over the title. You can see that from 51 loyalty, this guy here Peloposphirid is generating 0.12 monthly political influence. It's up here, the Epiproxenos 0.12, so it all kind of adds up. So add all this together, and of course you get the number here. So the more loyal these guys are in office, the more you will generate. So it's quite important to keep them as high as you can loyalty-wise. You'll see we have minus 0.25 due to the Basilisk. Now this could potentially be because of something. Maybe we have a trait that gets it down. Here we go. We do. We're arrogant, which gets our monthly political influence down by 0.25 per month. So yeah. So that's why these are all generated on a monthly basis. I did forget to mention, but you do gain a certain amount of resources on a monthly basis. Back to the manpower quickly. You gain manpower from pops. The freemen are the pops that grant you manpower. The more freemen you have, the more manpower you get, and of course, the more your maximum manpower will be. But we'll get to all that a bit later on. Next up, you have something called military experience. And this basically is a measure of how experienced your soldiers are. You gain it at a base rate of 0.3 per month, so no matter where you are, no matter who you're playing, no matter what type of units you have, you'll always gain that base 0.30 per month to your military experience. Now, there are a few other things that increase it. Now, you have a position in government called the Archizomatophylaks, and I'm quickly going to show you guys in the government again. Go to the officers tab, and you'll see the Archizomatophylaks down here, and this guy generates a certain amount of military experience, depending on his kind of skill that he has for the set position. Here you'll see he generates 0.01 military experience per month. Of course, the higher his marshal, the more we will gain. And then you also gain military experience per month depending on your average cohort experience. Now, considering we don't have a permanent army, we can't really kind of gain any extra military experience due to our average cohort experience. And this military experience here is spent, like, once you hit 100, now you can stockpile it, and you can stockpile it to a maximum of 200. So once you hit 100, you can spend it on something called military traditions. Now for that, you go to the military tab here, and you can see a load of different traditions that, depending on your culture that you're playing as, you'll have access to a certain amount of military traditions. So here, as Greeks, we have access to the Greek polis traditions, which is kind of Greek city traditions, and the Greek kingdom traditions. Since we're Greek, we have access to both. Click on them, and you'll see a tree that opens up either side. You can choose whichever one you want, bearing you've got to follow the arrows, so you've got to kind of start off at the bottom and then work your way down. Now, it costs 100 military experience to unlock something. As soon as you hit the 100, you'll have like a pop-up that comes down here, or you can just like manually click on the military tab and then go to the traditions, and you will be able to select a tradition. Now, you can keep it and stockpile it if you wish. If you want to stockpile military experience, it is possible. And sometimes I do advise it, because what happens is when you stockpile military experience, the more you have, the more your army morale goes up. So it gives you a nice boost to morale. I think for every 100 military experience, it is 5% extra army morale, with 200 military experience stored, giving you a maximum of plus 10%. It is quite powerful, so kind of know when you want to buy a tradition and when you want to stockpile it. It's quite important. Up next is stability. Another really important resource. Stability just kind of shows how stable your realm is. Now, it ranges from a value of 0 to 100. When you go above 50 or above, it is called positive stability, and you have good effects applied. So just hover your mouse cursor over and you'll see there's no kind of negative effects applied. Once you hit over the 50, you'll start seeing some really cool modifiers applied to population happiness, the amount of research points you generate, and all sorts of other cool stuff. However, if it goes the other way round and that you go under the 50 threshold, you start having some negative effects applied to your stability. So you kind of want to make sure you can keep this as high as possible. You lose stability through various different actions. In-game events that are queued down here can pop up and kind of make you lose some stability, because let's say one of your advisors is crap at his job and apparently you lose stability for it. You can also lose stability by having too much aggressive expansion, which we'll get to next. Too much aggressive expansion makes your realm unstable, and of course gives you a negative modifier applied to monthly stability generation. Up next, so speaking about aggressive expansion, we have got aggressive expansion here, and this is how aggressive you are. So the more you conquer, the more land you take, the higher your aggressive expansion goes. Now, the higher your aggressive expansion, it basically means that people around you aren't going to like you as much. It doesn't really affect too much your kind of op happiness per se in your realm, but it really more affects the opinion of others around you. Anything below 50 aggressive expansion is okay and quite manageable, but once you hit above the 50, you start having some pretty bad negative effects and negative modifiers applied to a variety of things, so you might want to watch out for that. Up next, we have war exhaustion, so it's basically come from attrition and lack of casus belli when starting wars. It's just basically how exhausted your people are when fighting. So the longer a war drags on, then the more war exhaustion you're going to get, the more your lands are occupied, the more war exhaustion you'll get. If you're blockaded, you'll get war exhaustion, and too much war exhaustion can give you some pretty bad negative effects. So you really want to keep this down as low as possible. It really is advised. And the next one here is called tyranny. Now, tyranny, as a monarchy, it's not really much of a problem, because you can just basically do what you want since you are the king. It poses more of an issue when you're playing as republics, where you have to deal with the Senate. This is where tyranny can become a pain. Now, tyranny is basically the value of how tyrannical your nation is, so if you take decisions that other people don't agree with, you gain tyranny. Now, luckily, as a monarchy, you can just do what you want, because you're king, so really, who gives a crap? You can just literally do what you want. If you're a republic, as I said, you have to go through the Senate, and that is quite complicated to do, because if you kind of pass stuff through the Senate and they don't agree with it, then you gain tyranny. And high tyranny, it affects character loyalty and a lot of other stuff, and it's pretty damn tricky, so I would advise you to keep it as low as possible. As a monarchy, it's easily manageable, as I said, but as a republic, it gets a little bit tricky. Now, legitimacy, this is basically a degree of how legitimate you are in, like, how legitimate your realm is. Now, I think legitimacy, now from the top of my head, now don't quote me on this, I think that it is only applicable to monarchies and tribal nations. I don't think republics kind of have legitimacy, from what I remember. I may be wrong, but don't quote me on that. So what legitimacy, what it really does, it's a value from 0 to 100, so 100 being the max, and when it's kind of high, you gain extra freeman happiness, so freemans are the type of pops in the realm, and they are happier, and of course the happier the pops are, the more they output. We'll get all to that in a little while on. And it also increases your primary air attraction. It increases per month based on a kind of set bunch of values, so you have like the Philosophos, who can increase it depending on his zeal skill. The Philosophos is this guy in here, just go in the officers, and he is. This guy, he increases your legitimacy. The higher his zeal, the more that increase. And a few other things can increase it, or decrease it. Ruling on popularity can decrease it, so if your ruler is unpopular, it can decrease legitimacy, and if your ruler is corrupt, it can also decrease that. Okay, so now that top bar is pretty much out the way, I'll just take a quick drink of water, because my mouth is going dry from speaking so quickly and so long. Now, moving on. Now this is done, we'll quickly kind of talk about these different tabs down here, and these are very important as well. You shall be using these quite a bit. So the first one here is basically the macro builder. This is pretty simple. I don't use it that often, to be honest, or I don't use it as often as I should. It basically just allows you to like build stuff in bulk. So basically, if you wanted to, let's say, build some ports in multiple cities, then it would highlight the available location. You can just click and build. Same for navies, same for settlement buildings, and same for kind of trade goods. So it's just kind of a pretty useful tool, really, to do stuff in bulk without having to manually kind of do stuff one by one. Now, up next here is your nation overview, so it's kind of the flag, and this gives you all relative information about your realm as well as the decisions that you can take. So in your overview, you have, of course, your power rank. So you have 4 power ranks going from going from city, state, local power, regional power, major power, and great power. Each time you kind of go up in a rank, you gain a few different bonuses, and you have a few negative effects as you go along. But it's all generally pretty the same. You basically have extra diplomatic relation slots, you have extra levy size multiplier, you have extra commerce income, extra relationship slots, you have extra... there's a load of extra stuff, and it kind of goes up as you increase. You can just see down here, I'll just let you guys read it, you can see all the stuff it gives, and then you can see the different ranks that you can have, and it's based on the amount of territories you have. So here, yeah, you have all like your relative information, so you have the number of cities that you have, the number of pops in your realm, you have the power base of Knossos, so this is basically... It's basically if shows you if there's a high enough proportion of a power base as dislodged to start a civil war. You have your heritages, which are kind of unique bonuses. You have your national unrest. You also have your civil war threshold. You have your type of pops. There's a kind of a round chart here which tells you how many you have of a certain culture type. It's a load of like useful information. The religion and the kind of pop ratios, the different kind of pop types you have in your realm. So yeah, a load of really cool information. You also have access to your national ideas, and this is pretty important, so I'll go over this quickly. You can also access national ideas at the start of the game by clicking on the free idea slots here. It's this kind of drop down, so just click on that and it will open up the same window. And here, what this does, for the cost of 20 PI, you can like assign some idea slots. Now you have 3 unlockable in each category. So you have military category, civic category, oratory category, and religious category. At the start of the game, in each category, you have 3 that are unlocked, and you unlock more going through the tech levels. We'll come to tech a little bit later on. So what the game does, depending on your government type, you have ideas that you can assign. So basically, here as an autocratic monarchy, it wants us to assign a military idea, a civic idea, and a religious idea. And if I select one in each category, then I'll get an overall bonus of national slave output to the degree of plus 6%. You can choose to follow it, or you can choose to kind of go whatever route you want. You don't have to fill them out. It really depends on the situation. I like to be flexible with my national ideas, so I don't always kind of focus on filling out the correct slots to get the bonus. It basically depends on what I want. But we'll choose these a bit later on when we actually start the game. Then under here you have decisions. There's a load of them that you can do. Excuse me. And you just basically kind of choose a load of different things. Some nations have more decisions than others, because some have more flavour. So it's basically just kind of a list of decisions you can do. Just hover your mouse cursor and you can see what you need to do the said decision and what it gives you. So just kind of take a look at these when you start. But there's generally not many that you can do straight off the bat. Now in this nation overview, you have next to it something called administration tab. Now here it just basically shows you all your governorships and your provinces. Now here, since we're starting as Knossos, here we only have one governorship, which is the region of Greece. Just click on the region map mode mouse on the region map mode here at the bottom above the minimap, and you'll see that the world is then divided into regions, and you can see region of Greece, Macedonia, Asia, Thrace, whatever. We're in the region of Greece, so there's the governorship. It shows you how much gold we are making from in this province at the moment, so we're making 0.33 from this province. You can just click on it and it will kind of break it down a little bit more, where you can see how many pops you've got, the amount of trade routes in there, the loyalty of the province food, and then you can like choose to release subjects to the client state, change governor policy and automatic trade, and go to a location. Provinces is the same thing, it's just like the even kind of bigger breakdown. So basically regions are like the big entities, and regions are made up of a multitude of provinces. Again, just click on the province map mode if you want to see this, and you'll go down here, look, and you can see the world is divided into provinces, and these provinces all make up regions. So that is that. Same principle, you can just basically see your different provinces, and you can see all of the different actions you can the 3 different actions you can do. You can see the food, the loyalty, and a load of other stuff. So that's about it for the nation overview. Next tab is your government, and this has like kind of 3 subcategories in it. So the first one is the kind of government section here, where you can actually see your ruler and his wife if he has one. If it's a republic, you'll see your ruler of the republic and a co-ruler and like a co-archon if he has one. You'll also see the ruler's popularity here, the degree of how popular he is. You'll also see his corruption. You see his spouse's loyalty, and the spouse's power base. So that's that. You also have his legitimacy here. You can see how legitimate he is, and you can see the bonus applied to the legitimacy. You can also increase it if you want to. If you don't have enough, you can use the increase legitimacy button at the cost of some political influence and some tyranny per month. And you can also see who is the favoured heir here. You can see the next ruler's legitimacy when he comes to power. So if he dies now, this guy pops in to take the throne, then he would have 79% legitimacy. And you can see the succession support, how much support he's got among the main families of the realm. You can see he's only got 3 here. You can gain more support depending on the guy's prominence. So a character has something called prominence. If you click on him, you should be able to see his prominence here. It's designated by this golden wreath crown there. And the higher this, the more succession support he can get. And of course, the more the family prestige is, then the higher the potential support. You also have the line of succession and pretenders section here. So basically you have a list of pretenders. So these are the guys that are probably going to kind of vie for this guy for power when our guy dies. And you can see basically how much support they have. So at the moment we're currently tied with this dude. So probably a civil war will probably break out, or a pretender army will rise, something like that. Now, you can anoint successors for the cost of political influence and legitimacy, and you can give them 1,000 succession value. So you can anoint people. And you can only do it to the person who is not the primary heir. So let's say this guy, I didn't want my son, Hippolyus Charid, to inherit, and I wanted this guy to. Because he's better, I could just anoint him, and I would like pay PI and pay legitimacy, and I would increase his value by 1,000, and then he would be the next in line to inherit. In here, as a monarchy and like other kind of government types, you also have a few other options. You can probably summon a war council, which gives you free claims on their neighbours. So it basically starts a chain of events where you can decide who you want to attack, gives you a free claim. You can also demand oaths of allegiance, so you pay 100 political influence, and your primary heir gains more attraction. I could do this now if I wanted to, and then my primary heir would gain more attraction, and therefore the other guys would be less of a pain when the guy dies and then succession happens. We can also hold games if you have enough gold to increase your popularity, and you can patronise the arts, and this would increase integrated culture happiness and monthly civ change. Again, all these things, civ change, culture happiness, I'll quickly go over them when the time arises. Okay, next up we have officers. So, officers here, now we kind of looked at this quickly, and these are a list of people in government. You can change them if you want. You can change them to whoever you want, unless they're disloyal. If the characters are disloyal, so if they're below the loyalty threshold, which is 33. As soon as someone goes below this 33 loyalty threshold here, they are disloyal, and then you can't remove him. You used to be loyal again for you to remove. But all the others who are loyal, you can remove and replace with like pretty much anyone you want. Now, each office gives you a bonus depending on his assigned stat. So the first two make up people with oratory, kind of, oratory stat, then the other one's a military stat, zeal stat, and finesse stat. And they all kind of give you a little bonus. I do invite you guys to kind of look at it in depth on your own. I won't go through what every single one does, but they're generally the same, no matter kind of what culture or government you're playing. With probably some subtle changes here and there, but generally it's always the same. What happens is that the guys, each guy's in position here. Let's for example this guy, Pelopos Firid. So he's an Epiproxenos and he uses oratory in his position. So his his oratory that he has at the moment, he has a maximum of 6. Now you'll notice he's only using 1. Why is he only using 1? Well, that's because his statesmanship is quite low at 24%. The higher this green bar, which is his statesmanship, the more of his overall stat he will use in the office. At the moment, he's only using 1 oratory, which gives us an 0.02 reduction to aggressive expansion change. So if we had any aggressive expansion, you can see it's applied here. So what basically you need to do is this guy, over time, he's going to gain statesmanship. So just click on his portrait and just go over this thing here, and it's called the statesmanship kind of bar, and you can see that he gains 0.7% per month due to the fact that he's a chancellor and due to the fact he has 6 finesse. So each month, this bar is going to increase by 0.7%. It's going to keep increasing, and it's going to keep increasing, and it will keep increasing, and the higher this bar goes, the more he will use out of his overall stat here. So that's basically how that works. Up next we have laws here, and this is a pretty kind of neat area, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. Now, to change a law, it costs stability and political influence. You can reduce it through inventions, you can reduce the cost, but you need to get a few inventions for that, and you can change these laws pretty much whenever you want if you have the required resource. Now, as a republic, it's a bit more complicated because you need support in the Senate, which is why I recommend, again, playing as a monarchy. It just makes it a lot easier, and you can change them. Some things you need to, like, there's some laws you can't change, you need to have some stuff. You'll see it's kind of, like, grayed out, and you can't do anything compared to these. Like here, if I wanted to put mercenary contact law, I could. If I wanted to put infrastructure policy, I can't because I don't have the invention of the land type. So in order to enact the infrastructure policy, I'll have to go and find the land type invention and take it. So, kind of, hover your mouse cursor over the kind of the circle, and it'll tell you what you need. So then you can plan accordingly. So that is that. Next, you have your economy. This is pretty damn simple. This literally kind of gives you an overview of your overall economy and your balance. So as you can see here, this shows us our monthly balance for this month coming up. So again, as I mentioned, up here it's the previous month. Here it is the actual month. You can see your income and you can see your expenses and all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to go over this in too much detail. I did a video on what income is made of and what it's comprised of, so these 3 categories here. So do go and check that out. The link will be in the description below. It's just for time's sake, it would save me a lot of time. Up next we have religion. And here you can see quite a few things. You can see your overall kind of a pie chart, I would say, of your Hellenic pops, how many there are. So we have 22 Hellenic pops, so 95.65% of the population. You can see that we have 1 Cybele pop in there as well. You can also see your omen power. So the higher this omen power, the higher the bonuses applied or that you would get from each omen in here. So the higher this number, the higher the bonus that these kind of different omens are going to give you. You have also your religious unity, so basically the more pops that are of your primary religion, the more religious unity, and of course the more religious unity, the more omen power. So your omen power is increased by your religious unity primarily. As you can see, we have 95.65 religious unity, we have 95.65 omen power there. On top of that, we add religious advances, so as you go through the religious tech levels, you'll gain 2% omen power each level, and then your Hierophant, again, this is the guy in the office, I'll show you guys quickly. The Hierophant is, where are you, he is here, and he's increasing omen power by 3% due to the fact that he's using 1 out of his 5 zeal. Again, if he had more statesmanship, he'll be using more zeal there. So that's what that is for. You can also see your reliquaries if you have any like kind of relic items, and these are all kind of special things that you can assign into holy sites if you own holy sites. Now, I don't own a holy site. Here, the Temple of Delos, it is owned by the Nesiotic League. Just hover the mouse cursor over the eye, click it, and it'll take you where it is. I don't own it, so I can't kind of pop out any of these items, and I can't even put in this in any of the other sites. If I wanted to, I would have to create a holy site. So, for example, let's say Hermes here, the Hellenic deity of economy. It has no holy site. If I wanted to create one, I could, but it's costly. Just click on your territory, and then you click on... Actually, no, I've already got one here, to be honest. I've already got a holy site there. But if I wanted to... Can't really show you because I don't have enough territories. But if I wanted to do one, you'd click on a territory, and here you'll have an icon where you say create holy site, and then you would create it. So that is how that works. What else was I going to talk about? You have, up here is your kind of happiness for Hellenic pops and how much is it increased by. Now here it's increased by 16% because we have Hellenic deities in our pantheon. If I were to put another deity, for example, if I had a... Have I got another deity type? Because I only have Hellenic deities, I think, at the moment. Yeah, I only have Hellenic deities. If, for example, I was to have a different religion deity available to select, so if I was to go for a Cybele deity, let's say, and I would put it instead of the Hellenic deity of economy here, I would lose 4% pop happiness for the Hellenic pops because I would have a Cybele pantheon in here. So instead of being 16%, it would go down. It will go down by 4, and it would be 12%. And what would happen is that my Cybele pops would gain plus 4% happiness because I have a Cybele pantheon in my, or a deity in my pantheon. I hope that was clear. I tried to be clear as I could possibly be. So that is that. Here for the kind of pantheons, you can select one. So what you have, each pantheon has a passive ability. So you can see here that the pantheon of, well, the Hellenic deity of Poseidon, he has starting ship experience plus 10%. Hermes has natural commerce income plus 15%, and these are all applied, these first ones, because they're passive abilities. If you wanted to unlock the second ability underneath it, you'll have to select the deity. So I would click on it, say calling on Hermes would grant national freeman happiness plus 6.03%, and as well as having the plus 15% commerce income, I would have the plus 6.03% to freeman happiness. The omens you call down last for 5 years, so you can't really select one for 5 years. So that is that. You can change them, so you just click on the replace Hellenic deity, and we can change depending on what you want. So kind of take a look around, and if you want to change them, you can. It does cost you stability to do so, so be careful when you do, because it costs you 15 stability. It's not nothing, it costs quite a bit. Next we have holy sites, so this is basically the holy sites that we have. Is it the holy sites that we have? No, it's not the holy... Is it the holy sites we have? No, it's the current holy sites... I honestly don't know if this is actually the holy sites that we have. What's this? Knossos. This is my one because it's in Knossos. And then we've got a holy site in Delos here. And I don't own this one. Oh no, it's the holy... Oh, of course, it's the holy sites of the deities that I've got in my pantheon. So, as you can see that I have the deity Poseidon in my pantheon here. And here it is. And it just shows me where his holy site is. And then, of course, this is the holy site that I own. And I own the holy site of Ariadne in Knossos here. So if I wanted to, I could probably change this. I just need to find it. It is here, Ariadne. And I could put this on here, and I could gain that. And I could like put it instead of the deity of Eleuthia. And then I could put one of the items in here, because you need to own the holy site in your territory to enable to put some like religious items in there, which would give you a little bonus. So for example, if I put the Tomb of Minos in my Ariadne temple, I would gain plus 10% state religion happiness. So that is the religion tab. Next is culture, and this can be a little bit daunting and a little bit complicated. So again, I'm just going to take a swig of my water so I can explain to you guys exactly what I'm going to be doing. So here you can see the different cultures of your realm. You can see your primary culture, so mine is Cretan, because we're on Crete. And it is of the Hellenistic culture group, and you can see all the different Hellenistic culture groups in the different subcultures of the Hellenistic culture group. Sorry, you can see Cretan is in there. There's a load of others, just like loads. Now here you can see the primary culture happiness. So this is the degree of how happy the Cretan pops are. And so here you can see we're at 40% because they're an integrated culture. And they have Cretan heritage. Our Cretan heritage gives us a nice bonus. If I go over to the kind of nation overview and hover over here, you can see integrated culture happiness plus 10%. That is so freaking powerful. I can't stress how powerful that is. You can also see the number of pops that you have, and you can see the breakdown of the different pop types. And if you have your mouse cursor over, you can see what type of pops they are. So you can see that our citizens, we have 10 of them, and they're all Hellenic Cretan. And then underneath this, you have the breakdown of the different cultures. So what you have here. How to explain this? This is going to be pretty tricky to explain. In the game, you have different you have two statuses for pops. You have integrated pops, and then you have unintegrated pops. The integrated pops are, they're your kind of ruling class. So my ruling class is Cretan, and that is why these are integrated. And then other pops you can choose to integrate. You can really choose to do that whenever you want. You can change the civic rights. And to integrate the pops, you need to grant them civic rights of citizen or noble, and then they would be integrated into the realm. Other than integrated pops, you have unintegrated pops, and they are kind of not really integrated into the realm, and they can't go above freeman. And they basically have less happiness than the integrated pops, but it is a little bit complicated, this window. It will be a lot easier if I kind of explain to you while I'm actually doing stuff with it, instead of kind of going through it with all this. But that's that. You can just literally sort by status, integration status, different culture groups, a load of other stuff. You can also enact decisions for the pops. You can give them some different types of rights, and it would increase their happiness and decrease something else. It's basically a one trade-off for something else, so it's up to you to really choose what you want. But this is kind of really slightly complicated to explain this, and I think it deserves a video on its own, and I do plan on doing one very soon, so hopefully that will help you guys out with this. This one here is a trade overview. This is fairly simple. You can see basically the different trade routes you have. We currently have one with Egypt, and we are importing grain from the Eastern Delta. I'm pretty sure we are. Let me just double check. Yeah, there we go. We're importing grain from the Eastern Delta. And you can pretty much sort out by everything. Sort your exports, you can sort by imports, you can sort by domestic trade routes, whatever. It's a load of different things you can do. You also have up here your different modifiers that apply to your trade. So we can have the import value, and the higher this is, then the more money you'll make from importing goods. Export value, the higher this percentage, then the more money you'll make from exporting goods. You can increase this through different sorts of innovations and all different things like that. So you want to keep out an eye for these. This is your import routes, capital import routes, how many you have in the capital. Currently have 2. This can be increased with, depending on inventions. You can have inventions to increase it. You can also increase it depending on your nation's size. The bigger your nation, then the bigger the power rank, then the more trade routes you have. And this is your national commerce income. So this basically is a modifier applied to your commerce income. So at the moment, what we make in commerce, we make plus 43%. Because we have the blessing of Hermes in the pantheon. Because we're a city-state, it gives us a plus 20% bonus, and our ruler finesse helps us with commerce income as well. Your ruler's finesse, you multiply it by 2, and you get the percentage. So basically, our ruler's finesse here is 4. I'll just quickly find it. So you'll see it's 4, and just multiply it by 2, and it would give you an extra bonus to national commerce income. If my spouse had a higher finesse value than the husband, let's say she had 6 finesse, then her finesse would apply, and I would get plus 12% bonus to commerce income. I think that's about it for trade. Oh no, here you have the you can accept all trade. By the way, you can block surplus if you want. I tend to do this because I do like to block surplus. It would make me lose my capital bonus because trade goods having a surplus in the capital gives you nice bonuses all over the realm, and I do like to keep this blocked. We can also accept all trade, so we can you can manually. Well, at the moment, we manually accept every trade we get. By clicking this, we accept every single trade offer, unless we lose our capital bonus. So kind of click this. It's just kind of quality of life thing. You don't have to kind of select everything. Down here, there's a pretty neat thing. You can kind of stop exporting kind of a certain type of good. Now, I tend to do this for food, because food is Foods can get pretty scarce pretty quickly. The more pops you have, the more food they consume, and of course, the more food you need. So that's why I do tend to like to keep the food. So it's grain, fish, vegetables, and where's the other one? I know there's one more. And livestock, there we go. So stop exporting these, and then you kind of let the rest do the thing on their own. Excuse me. Up next we have the military tab. So this is divided into 3 subcategories. The first one is your levies. Now, this would allow me to go through quickly what your levies are. So levies are fighting forces you can raise from regions. You can only levy pops from a region if they are integrated cultures. This comes back to our culture tab down here. So the Cretan pops are integrated cultures. So any Cretan pops in the region of Greece that we own, we will be able to levy them to kind of levy a small army. The more pops you have, or the more integrated pops you have in a region, the bigger the levy. So remember that. The more integrated pops you have in a region, the bigger the levy. The troops of the levy depends on quite a few things. Now, not on quite a few things, it depends on really mainly one thing. And that is the culture of the pops. And to see this, just, I don't know, let's say, click on my territory here, go on to the view pop info, and most of our pops are Cretan, so just hover over the Cretan here, and you'll see that pops belonging to this culture can raise the following levies. Heavy infantry 25%, archers 75%. That lets you know pretty much what the odds are of raising a certain type of troop. As you can see, our levies at the moment, we can raise 1 heavy infantry unit and 3 archer units. It's basically the ratio. 75% of the units we can raise here are archers, and 25% are heavy infantry, so it kind of matches up. So this is your levies. Up next are your legions, and these are your permanent armies. Now, you need to fill out a certain amount of prerequisites in order to raise legions. In order to raise legions, you must have a specific law. And this law, you just go into the government tab here, into the laws, and this law is Royal Guard. This allows you to raise legions. In order to enact Royal Guard, you need to be a regional power. And to do that, and to be a regional power, if you remember, go to the nation overview, hover over this here, which is your power status, and it's your city-state, and we need to be a regional power. So we need to have 25 to 99 territories in order to do so. So we are quite a way off being able to do that. Legions are more malleable than levies, so you have more control over what you want in them. So you can basically choose what you want. So you can select your unit composition for the legion, and of course they cost you manpower and gold to recruit the said unit. So it costs 500 manpower to recruit a unit in your legion. Of course, a cohort is 500 men, and it costs you a certain amount of gold. The size of the legion again depends on the number of integrated pops in the region. So it basically depends on the size of the region that you own, or the amount of land in the region that you own, and the number of integrated pops in there. If you create a legion out of the region with integrated pops, then you are going to be taking away from the levies. So you take away units from the levies to put into your legion, which means that when you come to raise levies afterwards, when you've got your legions, for example, and you have it wandering around here, when you come to raise your levies, you will have less men to raise because your legion will be taking some of the men for the legion. Hope that makes sense. And then, of course, next you have traditions here that we went through earlier on quickly, which I kind of explained, and this is really neat. Now, coming back quickly to your levies, you can increase the levies. The size of the levies also can depend on the levy size multiplier, which can be increased through a variety of factors. Again, there are some laws that help with that. So, for example, if I went to the government here and we went to, I don't know, military service, it would increase my levy size multiplier by 10%. So that means I would be able to probably levy an extra troop or 2 out of these guys here. Up next we have mercs. This is fairly self-explanatory really. It's very, very easy. It's not very complicated at all. And it's just basically a list of mercs you can hire. You can see where they're located by clicking on the eye. You can see the composition of the units, how much they cost per month to maintain, how many men are in there, the martial stat of their leader, and you can just recruit them for a lump sum of gold. And then of course you have the wages you have to pay behind. So make sure you make enough gold per month in order to hire them. To disband them, it will cost you gold as well. So remember that. You can also do the same for naval kind of mercs. It's the same principle. Eye shows you where they are, and you can recruit them for gold. Again, remember to kind of make sure that you have enough gold in order to disband them. To maintain them, sorry. Which is quite important. The next one here is your diplomacy tab, and this is all for things like diplomacy, for like all diplomatic things. So you can basically see, your nation, your city-state, your kind of power status. You see your ruler, you see your stability, gold, manpower, number of pops, number of territories, what culture you are, and what religion you are and stuff. This button here allows you to see the different characters in your country, which you can sort by a load of different things. You can also see if you have a potential civil war here, if too many people in your country have a too big power base and are disloyal. So there's a load of stuff you can see. You can also see this for other nations. Just right click on them and it opens up their diplomacy screen, but you're not necessarily going to be able to see everything. There are a few things that are hidden. You're unable to see the treasury of foreign countries. You're unable to see the manpower. You can't see... There's quite a few things, and you can only see them with a certain invention. It's called espionage, and it'll allow you to see a few other bits of information on their diplomacy screen. But anyway, back to R1. Let me just go back here. There we go. So on R1, you can see also our idea slots, all our national ideas, what we've chosen. You can see our military tech level, the amount of ships we have. You can see our diplomatic relations, so who we're friends with, who we're not friends with, what's their opinion of us. You can also see your diplomatic stance, which you can change, by the way. That is down here. There are a few diplomatic stances to choose from, each one giving you a different thing. The neutral stance giving you an extra diplomatic relationship slot, making you have more allies, potentially. The appeasing stance gets aggressive expansion down. It reduces the cost to improve opinion, increases the opinion of your allies. Mercantile stance increases your commerce income. Bellicose stance reduces aggressive expansion impact, among other things. And domineering stance increases the loyalty of your subject states if you have any. There's a load of other stuff. Just go and check them out and choose the one you want. It does cost 30 PI, so just remember that before you choose it. It's quite expensive. You can also see our foreign relations if we have any allies, which we do. We have Knossos, which is quite interesting, which is all the way over here. These are our buddies. We also have a feudatory, so you can see if you have any subjects. We do. We have a feudatory, which is Elatherna here next door. A feudatory pays you manpower per month. And they join you in wars if you attack somebody, but they have to be loyal, remember that. Their loyalty, by the way, just right-click on them and you can see their loyalty by the hand here. You can see he's not loyal, so he would not join in any war we wish to do. So you can see that there. You can also see your client states and if you have any and a load of other stuff. You can also see who you're giving military access to, who is allowing you military access, and your different trades. Underneath here, you can see your details. You can see your aggressive expansion change, your aggressive expansion impact, the modifier that's currently affecting it, the amount of relationship slots you have, your diplomatic reputation. Sorry, that basically affects how many people see. Well, how people see you from the outside world. Higher diplomatic reputation increases people's opinion of you. It also allows you to integrate subject states quicker, and you can see your diplomatic range. That's basically the range in which you can communicate with people. People who are outside of your diplomatic range, you cannot communicate with them. To see this, just click on the diplomatic map mode, and you'll see everything that's dark grey. You can't negotiate with them. So let's say if I wanted to negotiate with the Antigonids, right-click, and you'll see that I can't because they're outside of our diplomatic range. You can increase your diplomatic range quite easily by increasing your power status. So as you grow from city-state to a local power, to a regional power, to a major power, to a great power, each time you go up, your diplomatic range has increased quite significantly. So that is a pretty good way to increase that. And next we have technology. This is really important technology, probably one of the most important aspects of these tabs, to be fair. And this allows you to kind of choose this, how to put it, this is where you get all your inventions. And I'm not going to go over this in too much detail. I did a guide on tech a while back. Now, it may be pre 2.0 Marius, but the the principle's the same, and it works well even now. So I do advise you to go and check that out if you want an in-depth guide. I will go over it pretty quickly here in very kind of broad spectrum, just to kind of tell you guys what it does. Now, basically, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 categories of tech, okay? And in each one, you have a set of inventions that you can unlock by spending innovation points, okay? These innovation points are gained each time you gain a tech level in one of the categories. So each time I gain a tech level, for example, in a martial category here, I would gain an innovation point that I could spend on this. How do I gain these levels? Well, these levels are gained, it depends on your research efficiency, okay? Your research efficiency basically depends on the amount of research points you make and the proportion of noble and citizen pops you have in your realm. The higher the amount of nobles and citizens you have in your realm in proportion to the other type of pops, then the quicker your research efficiency and the quicker you'll go through the levels. The speed at which you gain the levels is also influenced by your researcher, so the higher the stat they have for the corresponding category, the quicker you'll go through the levels. So for the martial researcher, it's his martial stat that matters, the civic stat that matters, and so on. The higher the stat for each category, the quicker the increase, okay? That's pretty much how it works. And then it just allows you to get a load of different bonuses by spending innovations, and there's some really cool stuff, so do spend a lot of time checking out this section. Up next here we have the character tabs, and this basically shows you all the characters in your realm. You can sort by a variety of different things, and like kind of stats, loyalty, if they're an adult, governor or not, whatnot. It's a shame you can't sort by if they're married, and Paradox haven't implemented that yet, which is a shame, and it's really a big pain, and I hope they would have implemented it. You can also show your great families. Of course, your realm is made up of characters, and some characters can belong to great families. The number of great families you have, again, depends on the size of your nation. So if you're a city-state, you'll have less great families. If you become a regional power, you'll have access to another great family slot, and so on. These great families are your most prestigious families in the realm, and these people demand positions in government, which is what you can see with these numbers here. And you can see if they're content or not. You can see the families here they want a minimum of 3 jobs, each one does. So the first family, the Charid family, has 3 jobs, the other family has 4, and the third one has 4. You need to give them jobs or they become scorned. If they're scorned, the whole family takes a -10 to loyalty penalty. So that means they're less loyal. So you want to make sure you give these guys jobs. You'll have a little pop-up icon that says scorned family here if you have a scorned family. Great family characters, you can find them because they have a colour code at the top right-hand corner of the kind of portrait. An individual that doesn't have that, like this guy for example, he's not a great family member because he doesn't have the little colour thing here. She is, because she has the blue colour there. She's part of the Charid dynasty, and it's also, like it says here, you can say it's part of the dynasty, Charid dynasty, Ajid dynasty. So that's how you kind of recognise who these guys are. And that's pretty much how it is. You can search for characters as well. You can kind of type. I'm sure you can search for like specific traits. Let's say if I type incapable, could I find that? This is a good question. No, I can't. So what if I was to like put a name? What if I was to put Charid? Oh yeah, there we go. You can type Charid and it shows you all the members of the Charid dynasty. So it's a shame you can't type for traits. That's a shame. But oh well. And of course, the last one down here. And this is your missions. These are really cool. Now, some of them are generic, some of them are scripted depending on the nation you're playing. A lot of the Diadochi, so the Macedon, Antigonids, Seleucids, Egypt, a load of others, they have a lot of really cool scripted missions, which give a nice like bunch of flavour. For the others, for most of the nations, they're kind of generic, and you can kind of... it gives you a set of objectives to do, which will give you some bonuses once you complete them. So you can basically use to choose which one's available. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 to choose from, sometimes there's only 1. I mean, I'm going to click on the matter of Greece here, and let's say I start the mission here, and you'll see that here we go, we have a set of mission trees to finish out, and by doing them, you gain a load of bonuses, and yeah, it's up to you to check them out. Moving on, these here are basically important notifications. Check them out when you want. The hand here is disloyal characters. This one is unused trade routes. This one's units lack a commander. This is you can afford a new invention. This is you can call down an omen. This one is a mission task can be completed, and this is free idea slots. If anything important pops down, this is just basically you want to look at it. So you can just click on them and it will just take you to the required area to do whatever you need to do. So that's quite important. And now we'll move on to the kind of last section of this first part, which is the outline of the map mode here, and then we'll get into some actual gameplay. So, what we have here is the outliner where you have a load of like information you can like choose to kind of put on there. So you have your controlled navies, just little characters. You can change it, and you can select what you want to see. So if you have any great wonders, if you want to see any human players, just sieges, just little characters. Basically choose what you want to put in there. I leave everything on because I do like to kind of find out what is kind of going on. Your queued events here are little minor events that you can like kind of witness. So if like an event happens, it will pop up in this box. You click on it, or open up a box, and there you have a small event, which will give you a kind of either a bonus or not a bonus, depending on what the event is. So do keep an eye out for it. I find it's in a bad location. You can't really see too well what it is, because I kind of look in the middle of the screen, and then it's at the corner of the eye. You can see it, but it's not clear enough. I wish I could move it up to the left-hand side, but do try and keep an eye out for this. And then last, you have your mini-map here. Just click on your mini-map, move all over the place, blah, blah, blah. And you have your map modes, and there's a load of different map modes. But do check them. Honestly, there is so many. Familiarise yourself with these map modes. It is super important. Do check them. It is absolutely awesome. It gives you a load of information quickly. So really do check them out. You can change them. Just click on configure the preset map modes, and there's some that aren't already assigned in here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to put which one haven't I got? Got to find one. Fortifications I've got. Trade. Let's say I wanted barbarian power. Okay, a barbarian power map mode showing me where the barbs are. Just click on it, drag, and then just drop it into one of the slots, and there you'll see, and it's in there. You can delete it by left clicking on one of the kind of buttons here and it kind of removes it. And now I'm just going to put back the one I want, the Atlas map mode. So there, just can't click it, you need to click and drag. So click it, drag it, pop it in. Okay, that is that. Okay, I'm going to take a short break here because my mouth is on fire since I've been talking like crazy. And now what I'm going to do is get a drink, take a quick break, and then we'll come back to the actual gameplay. Before I do start, I forgot to mention this up here. You have a ledger here, which is super important. If you want to kind of search how many cohorts the nation has, how many ships they have, how many pops they have, how many cities, and a load of other stuff, you can pretty much search it through here. Same for like nation for rulers in the game. You can kind of search for the different rulers, see what they're like. You can look at your provinces here. You can search for your cohorts kind of bonuses. Now, here you have, this is only for you for the cohorts, for your like soldiers, and it shows you all the bonuses applied to a load of different factors. Again, I did a video on this not too long ago on a guide to land battles, so I'll put the link in the description below. Again, go and check that out if you want to know what all this is in detail. For time's sake, I'm not going to go and do this now. But then you can see your rulers here, there, and it gives you like information. Load of different stuff. So there we go. Now I've done that, let's me go and get a drink and I'll catch you guys in a little while.